Hello and welcome back to another Maker Showcase for Halton MakeFest 2022. For this video we are joined by Chris and Tia. How's it going?
Great, yeah, fantastic, thanks.
I'm
really
good.
Excited.
Fantastic. So Tia, what are you going to be doing today with us in this video?
Today I'm going to be doing a special effects look for Eddie from the Rocky Horror Show.
Fantastic. And Chris is going to be our glamorous model and also telling us about everything that's going on with A Place for Us at the moment. Brilliant. So should we get started?
Yeah, definitely.
So how do we start with something like this? What's the first thing you need to do?
The first thing you need to do is you need to get a bit of wax. It's a bit of skin coloured tanned wax, and this is kind of what we would use for the cut that'll go across the head. So what we're going to do is we'll place that on the head, and then you have to slowly and gently like moisturize kind of, or spread the edges across the face. And it can take a little bit depending on the wax, because sometimes it can be really malleable and workable. Other times it can be very, very solid.
And where would you if someone's watching from home going, I wouldn't mind giving this a go, where would you get this type of wax? Is it something that you can pick up on Amazon, or is it more specialist? Or
most of the time we would recommend not getting anything off of like Amazon and eBay, because you don't really know what's in it and it can be dangerous for your skin. So we'd recommend getting it off of like a makeup website or a special effects website. I don't really use any in particular. It's just like any that you can really find. All of them pretty much have the same texture.
But making sure you use a specialist site for it, something that's they're selling this type of thing all the time.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
And so is this? You've got to forgive me. I'm not great with characters. So is this a scar that's going to be going across the forehead? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cut with so it's a massive like cut across the forehead, and then it's got some staples that are stuck into it.
Oh, fantastic.
So the character of Eddie in Rocky Horror he's had a lobotomy, so he's had half of his brain taken out, and the other half of the brain's actually been given to Rocky, the title character. So yeah, the scars from having half of his brain removed.
Fantastic. So for anyone that's been watching the videos, you may have seen that we've got another video with Kate where she got made up into a character. Now, Chris, I don't know too much about your life pre your place. Have you been in the makeup chair many times before? Or is this a first experience for you?
It's not a common experience. So my background is as a musician. That's where I started my career, and now I'm the musical director for A Place for Us. So that's got a whole range of things. So from conducting orchestras, when we do things with live band, doing music supervision, so any of the plays and things that we do, just picking the music, the sound effects, making sure all that's in place. But yeah, originally as a professional musician, doing things in shows, so in the pit quite a lot, in theatre shows, so not required to sit in the makeup chair too often.
I was hoping you were going to tell me you were like part of the Blue Man group or something like that, and you were regularly getting your head shaved and completely coloured in blue on a regular basis.
I think it's the abundance of spandex that kind of prohibits that more than anything else, if we're being honest, Sean. But Blue Man Group are amazing, actually. They're such an incredible group on stage.
Yeah, I've never seen them live, but I've seen videos of that. I'd love to go and see them live. Yeah, I'd imagine it's a proper spectacle. Tia, what are we? So we're kind of like we're working our way through there. Are you trying to start? Are we blending here now? Is this still more kind of squishing activity that we're going on to get it onto the skin?
Yeah, what we're doing is we're just blending the strip of wax into the skin, so it looks like it is the actual skin coming off, instead of it just looks like it's being stuck on.
It already looks, it's crazy how quickly it starts to look like it's part of the body, rather than like it just looks like a roll up piece of plasticine or something from a person. It's crazy how quickly it goes into doing it. So how long have you been doing makeup for, Tia?
Professionally, I've only been doing it for 2 years, but before that, I've been teaching myself for about a year.
Yeah, fantastic. And how did you get into it? What was the inspiration for you to start doing it yourself?
Before I went to college, I did a lot of cosplay, which is a lot of character work and making yourself to look like specific characters. And to look like that character, you really need to know the makeup. So learning that and doing really detailed work was really necessary. So I thought going into college and getting taught would be best way than teaching myself.
Fantastic, brilliant. So we're putting the kind of like the scar on at the moment, and I know Chris said then that we've got some staples or something to go into it. What's the next thing now? Once you've done that, once you've blended it in, once you've got it, what's the next step? I'm not trying to rush you though. Feel free to keep going on to that. Yeah.
Well, after it's blended, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my this little flat tool. It's metal, and it just slowly I'm just going to press into it so it makes a cut. So then you have that line of skin in between. And then that's what we'll fill in later with like the colours and the blood and stuff to make it look more realistic.
So, I mean, again, I'm quite amateur at this type of thing. Am I right in thinking that, would a wax like you're using now be used more for kind of smaller injuries and changes and things like that, and a prosthetic would be kind of like bigger ones, or is that just preference and things like that?
It's more sometimes where it is on the body as well, because sometimes if it's especially on like a very, very movable face, like sometimes the forehead, if it's on for a really long time and they're going to be acting for a while, it'd definitely be better to use either a silicone gel or a prosthetic, and those just stick better to the skin and will stay as the face moves.
And does that would it also potentially change depending on what the art form is going to be? So if it's on camera or if it's on going out in theatre and things like that, would that make a difference to what choice you use in terms of wax or prosthetics and stuff?
Definitely, because the prosthetics blend way better into the skin, because they have this like thin layer that's made out of like a similar texture, whereas wax can not blend as comfortably, and you can kind of see the trail of wax on the skin most of the time, so it is way better to use it. But in either small stuff or even just short or further away, even theatre, it can be easier to use wax if you're on a shorter budget.
Fantastic. Chris, so you were saying for the artistic director at a place for us, and I've seen online all of the incredible projects and shows and things like that you go, and it looks like you're always busy with multiple projects. How big is the team at a place for us?
Do you know what, we're a small team, so actually core-wise there's myself and Kate, but we work in partnership with quite a lot of other people. So we have individual actors that we work with, we have tutors who do our Saturday morning academy with us, and then we have some wider partnerships. So actually, like the partnership we've got with Riverside College and the two makeup artists here is absolutely fantastic. It's brought a dimension to what we do that we couldn't do otherwise, and it works brilliantly for everybody. So our shows look even better, but it gives the makeup artists a real opportunity to kind of real world experience of kind of developing their expertise, I guess. Really, it works well.
Fantastic. Tia, I know we spoke earlier. You've been involved in a couple of A Place for Us is productions and things. Which ones have you been involved in?
I have done Electric Dreams and the zombie attack that was here held in the shopping centre. Fantastic.
I was at one of the I think it was the first Electric Dreams performance. So it was one of the early ones anyway. Yeah. It was really, really good. Do you have a kind of a preference in terms of like, because obviously two very different genres that are going from scary horror, zombie kind of makeup to 80s over the top kind of fashion musical based makeup. Did you have a preference which one you prefer doing?
I prefer the like, I enjoy doing every type of media. It's really fun to get to learn all the different stuff. I started on face paint and like the really weird and like aliens and all that sort of stuff. Adding those little small details and stuff is really what I really enjoy getting into.
Fantastic. Have you got one piece of artwork or makeup that you've been particularly like kind of like proud of? Is that's your kind of benchmark, or is it kind of is it more like you like little bits of each one and things like that?
I did a final exam in one of my colleges, and I made my friend look like she was a victim of an attack. So we did like a crime scene and did loads of stuff on the floor, and it was really fun to get her into college and have fun with that.
Yeah, that seems really interesting when you've got like the full crime scene and stuff like that. I'd imagine as well on dramas and things like that that you'll get kind of like descriptions potentially of like how somebody has been assaulted or how something has happened, and then it's down to the makeup artist to bring that kind of like vision that's in someone's head to life, and kind of like, so you probably get quite a lot of kind of like control in the final look or the final output in scenes.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you prefer to do projects like that where you might get a description and kind of go, well, I'm going to try and kind of like use this description and make something, or do you like kind of trying to recreate? Because obviously I know you talked a little bit about cosplay. Do you prefer kind of like, in cosplay, I'm guessing normally it's more you kind of following an image, following a design that's, you know, preset. Do you have a preference whether to kind of like recreate things that are being made or kind of come up with your own stuff?
Either or is like really fun, but having to like create your own kind of really gives that freedom of like what you want to do, because it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Whereas when you've got a brief, you really have to like dig down into that research and figure out like what needs to be done. Does it look realistic? Is it right?
I imagine I'd imagine so, because there's so many potentials, isn't there, for happy accidents, I guess, if you're doing it yourself, you know, where you kind of go, I remember once I was doing a project and I wanted something to sound one way, and then I accidentally made it sound completely different, but I was like, well, that sounds awesome. I'm gonna now I've got that string to my bow to make things sound that way. So is it sometimes a bit like that with makeup, where you'll be experimenting and doing things, and then you can kind of go, oh, that has this effect, and I know that I've got that now in my arsenal if I need to make it again somewhere else?
Yeah, definitely. It also gives that range of like, maybe you didn't even know you could do it, and then it gives you like really good ideas in the future of like, I could do this, or even some bigger plans. I
think that's one of the things about working in the creative industries, is very often you find those chance things. And I think the best people sometimes, they really seize on those and go, I didn't mean that to happen, but I'm going to go with it, I'm going to run with it and see what happens. And I think those are sometimes where you get the most exciting results.
I remember I was working with a client a long time ago now, and he said something very similar to where they were meant to be out filming, and they were going to be recording an advert, I think, for something that they were doing, and they had brought the camera ready for them to do it, but there was an error with the camera, and it was only shooting at like a couple of frames a second, and so they thought, well, we'll just shoot it anyway, just so we've got something. And the actual end result of it came out like amazingly, and it's something that they then went forward and continue to do this really like stock kind of like really blocky video, but in the contents of how they did it did look. And so I think that is a massive part of the creative industry, isn't it? It's like the show must go on, you know, kind of like that real like reserve to kind of find a way around it, like make sure it gets done.
I think for us, we do a lot of outdoor theatre as well, and one of the productions we did last year was Macbeth, and we did that in the Woodland Theatre space at Norton Priory. And what was really exciting about that was there was very little tech, because of course we're in a theatre, there's no power, so you're not reliant on using those tricks and gadgets or whatever to kind of create anything. And what we had was the woodland around us. And seeing how Kate, the other artistic director at a place for us, how she was using that space, the woodland space, and what was available and what was there to actually really contribute towards the production was just amazing. And I think the kind of rawness and the experience we got out of that would have been completely different if we'd have done it in a theatre. You know, so I think often it's taking advantage of what's in front of you, you know, and just running with it and going with it.
Definitely. Tia, can you give? We've moved on massively since we last spoke to you. Can you give us a bit of an update of what we're doing now and what's just happened? We've got, it looks a lot redder now, yeah. And are you kind of, yeah, well, in fact, like, I'm not going to guess. You tell me what you're doing now.
So what I'm doing is basically I've took some alcohol activated paints and I've just got some IPA, which is just 99% alcohol. And you just mix in the colours to be in between like reds, pinks, purples to match that like skin tone underneath, and then you're blending the colours out into the natural skin.
So is that kind of, because obviously there's quite a big kind of like scar there now, and is that kind of like I guess the bruising that you're going for, yeah, like with it, or is it kind of spreading out the blood? What's those pinks and purples? What are those kind of trying to show on the makeup? It's
showing that after the gash, because it's obviously been there for a while, the skin's going to be really irritated and it's probably going to start dying a little bit, so it causes that like redness and maybe sometimes some greens and stuff when the skin starts to go really gross. And the center is really where all the red will be, because it's where the inside.
It's really interesting because it's like you talk about how actors, you know, really need to get the character and understand the character, and I'm sure the visual can help them as well of seeing that, but also the makeup artists have really got to understand that character, haven't they? Like, where did this injury come from? How long ago did it happen? You know, how did it happen? You know, and what that again might look like with age. And the also, I guess, what you're trying to portray in the scene, if you're trying to like, you know, make sure people know or think that it's irritable, you know, wound and things like that. It's just really interesting, like kind of how deep you've got to kind of get into it. I was also taking them when you were talking about the alcohol and different types of paints. It's almost like a bit like a science as well, this, isn't it? In terms of like making sure you've got the right consistencies, making sure you've got the right chemicals to be able to make things happen, but also making sure that they're all safe and things for the skin. It's like this strange combination between like science and artistry, but also those soft skills, making sure that the model is feeling all right as well at the time, and things, and you're using the right, you know, looking at the right materials for the right output. So it's a bit of a balancing act, isn't it? With it, is it a case when you go into a new role or a new job and stuff like that, you really have to, I guess, like start from the beginning and start thinking about how you're going to attack something or get something done.
Definitely, you have to definitely know the person that you're working with, because everyone has different skin types. Sometimes wax doesn't stick well to some skin types. You have to work with stuff. Sometimes people can be allergic to the stuff you're working with. So you have to be really aware to make sure to ask if they're okay, nothing's hurting, irritating. If it does, then it immediately has to come off, because their safety is way more important than the filming. We can always find another way around it. There are loads of different products that can give the same outcome without having any injuries.
Fantastic. Brilliant. So, Chris, I know your background is in music. How did you get started, and what's your journey to here then? What happened?
So originally, I started off, I think, way back in school, and I came from a very supportive family who saw the value of kind of music, and you know, it was a typical working class family, so it was difficult to kind of pay for lessons and stuff, but they were just very, very supportive. And I think, if I'm being absolutely brutally honest, the reason why I ended up in music is because it's pretty much the only thing I was good at school. I wasn't academic, I wasn't, you know, I didn't stand out in that area, but music I really enjoyed, and I think that was the most important thing. I was very fortunate that I enjoyed doing it, and my parents supported me to kind of do it, and I was incredibly lucky to have that. And I think, like most people with some form of talent, you just pursue it, see how far it can get. If you'd have asked me, you know, when I was Tia's age, whether I thought I was going to have a career in music, I think you hope for that, but you can never, you know, you can never kind of assume that you have. And I was very fortunate. I got to tour around the world doing music, you know, playing in different shows, playing in West End shows, all sorts. And then around about 2005, I got into music education. I'd always done a little bit of teaching, and I just found out that I was really passionate about encouraging young people in the arts.
It's so interesting. Like, it's so much of my story mirrors yours. I was very similar. I remember in my school you couldn't select music. You had to be selected to be able to do it. And I'm very similar in terms of like not very academic at all, but was selected to do music. And I remember it being a shock when it came through. But that was like kind of what pushed it. And again, like myself moving into when I moved into more teaching roles. My mum was a teacher, and the last week I seen how much work that teachers have on the plate, and seeing my mum like every evening marking and doing different bits and bobs. Teaching was the last thing that I ever thought I would be doing. I had no interest in going into it. But then the second tried it, just had this real like awakening inside you. You're kind of going, oh, I think there's something here for me. So just so interesting with you saying that, so many similarities in our stories there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what eventually brought Kate and I together was Kate as well as doing all the other things she did, she's the cultural advisor at the Heath School in Runcorn. And they reached out. I had a music service at the time, so a team of about 30 instrumental tutors. And Kate reached out to me and asked if I could help out providing the band for their production of Les Miserables. This was back in 2017. And it was one of those kind of really serendipitous things where we just absolutely clicked. We got on really well. We found out that we had the same passions for music theatre and about really supporting the young people to have access to high quality sort of arts provision, and we did that performance together, and that was really the start of Kate and I working together, and the seeds of a place for us, really.
Fantastic. I'm listening, but I'm also seeing you changing colour, so I'm going to go to Tia now. So what are we doing now? What's going on?
So we're just applying a foundation, and it's a bit thicker because it's a theatre foundation, so it needs to be able to like stay and not move. So it's like it's like kind of like a Play-Doh texture sometimes. It can be really thick on the brush, and then you just work that product into the skin. And normally for theatre makeup, when you do it, it should be a few shades darker on the skin because you need them to look warm and glowy. But for the character that we're doing here, he's dead, so he's really pale. Right. Yeah. So he needs to look a lot. So we normally either match or maybe go slightly lighter depending on the lighting. Yeah. Just to make sure that it's not more glowy, it's more that like yellowy off colour. How'd
you get on? Chris got a bit of a goatee there, and I got this. How does it? Is it a pain when someone's got facial hair and things like that to go around it, or is it all right? Until you just get used to it.
Sometimes we actually prefer to go on it, and then you take a spoolie, and which is the the end of a mascara wand, and you just slowly remove it off of the beard, and then you can fill it in a little bit with some powder, so then there's no gaps in the skin.
I see. So you go through it and then take it off the top. That's a good. Yeah. Imagine it'd be like patchy. Yeah, just the goatee that's not done. That's brilliant.
Do you know what, Sean? That's just reminding me, just listening to the conversation about how much I think we don't see of what happens backstage. I think we're so used to, particularly for Kate and I, coming from the backgrounds. Kate is an actor, and myself as a musician. We're often very much at the front of what people see, and you don't realise how much goes into everything else. And it was just listening to that bit of conversation with Tia earlier about thinking about the scar and how it should look and why it would look like that, and just all of the thought and preparation that has to go in just to one tiny element of a show or anything. I find it amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, there's obviously I was talking before about Electric Dreams, which was fantastic by a place to us outside. I know Tia worked on that one as well, and I've got to admit, yeah, when you're watching it, you kind of just get so immersed in the kind of performance and the whole thing. But there's so much that goes into that, isn't there? So. just from being there. I know that you guys had a band playing, like there, but you had makeup on. But just thinking about it again, costumes, all the lighting, or any props, that were there. You had a big inflatable heart, like and stuff. Like, I mean, there's so many like kind of bits and bobs that go into making it. And even on the day, I think they were selling picnic hampers, and all sorts of things like that really go to kind of creating a vibe, don't they, and stuff. And so I think you're right. There's so many kind of probably unsung heroes, that are involved in these things, and it's often those little things like the makeup artist really thinking about how the scars and all, making sure that they're using the right foundation to make sure it stands out in theatre or on screen. That maybe you don't pick up on them individually, but they all add up to really kind of like providing this high quality experience. And I've been thinking recently about the kind of the opportunities that performances and festivals and things that give people to to get involved with stuff like this and have a go at doing it. So yeah, if you were to give one piece of advice for someone, Chris, who was like looking to start out in theatre, whether they want to be in front, acting on stage, or they wanted to be, within the music or any other element, what advice would you give them?
I think first port of call would be to, especially if it's to do with kind of theatre or any sort of performance art, then would be to just drop us a line. I know that you guys will put the socials up and the website and stuff. That'll all be there. If people want to get in touch with us that way. And I think what's really important about that is that it's really hard for people sometimes to make a really informed decision about whether they want to do something, because often people have to commit massively to even get an experience. And I think what we're very much about is trying to give people an experience without having to commit, so they can just try and go, actually, do you know what, I want to find a bit more out about that, so what do I do next? Just a really quick example, we've got on the ruins at Norton Priory, we've got a performance of We Will Rock You coming up in actually be the very end of August. It's a 2-week kind of intensive boot camp type thing for anybody who's interested in music theatre. And so it's a really good way of thinking, I'm interested in that, I don't have to commit massively to any funding, we've got lots of bursary places available. And then if it's something that kind of does pique their interest, we can help them onto the next stage of what it is they want to do. We work in partnership with so many people, so even if it's not something that we do, we will know people who do it, so we can help those people on those kind of progression routes.
That's interesting. So if We Will Rock You, I'm guessing that is that a kind of a Queen themed performance? Like,
it is, absolutely.
No flies on me. But if you've got someone there that goes, oh, do you know what, I really like the idea of theatre, but I'm not much of a singer, or maybe the other way around, maybe they've got experience in singing, but they've never acted before, or maybe they don't want to be in front of the camera, but they're just interested in finding. Is there anyone in particular that you're looking for? Is everyone kind of welcome to have a chat with you, or with regards to that?
We are really kind of open access. Things like We Will Rock You. We really want to get as many people engaged as possible. So we're looking, if you're interested in the backstage stuff, if you're interested in lighting, if you're interested in sound or makeup or costume or props, or if you're just really interested to find out what it is, get in touch with us. If you're a singer and you think I've often fancied the idea of doing that, then get in touch. Things like We Will Rock You are a kind of a gateway. How we work is we work sort of like from first experience right through to professionals, and we work with everybody kind of within that sphere. And I think what we try and really pride ourselves on is whatever stage you are at your journey, come to us and we'll support you onto the next phase of that journey, whether that's directly through us, whether it's with partners, whether it's through facilitating things, and that's really important to us, that you can come to us at any stage and we'll support you.
I think that's what's really nice about Halton at the moment for me, is that it really seems to be developing in terms of the partnerships that are there between all the creative organisations in the area, to be able to do that, to be able to go, do you know what, actually, this is the person that you want to speak to. This person could potentially take you a little bit further. Maybe you want to, maybe that's within a college, maybe that's within another organisation, maybe it's within working in partnerships and stuff. It just seems like a really healthy place at the moment in terms of people to be able to signpost and let you know about where opportunities and things might be coming up.
Yeah, absolutely sure. I mean, it's all about partnerships. You know, no one organisation or individual can do everything. And I think what's lovely and genuinely heartwarming about the creative organisations in Halton is what you say. How we work together. We're not precious. We all seem to have the same attitude of supporting anybody at any stage to kind of be able to achieve whatever it is they want to creatively.
Tia, I can see that we've got almost, is that like a black eye effect that's going on there?
Yeah, so we have took a mix of like purples, blacks, some light reds, and we've mixed them together and we've put them on this stipple brush, and it has that effect because some of the tips are higher than the rest of the brush. So it just gives the little stipples of like the blood vessels and all that showing up as the bruise will show up.
I guess that's such a big part of makeup, isn't it? It's in terms of like, it's reacting, almost trying to emulate the human body. It's not going to be a smooth thing, is it? It's going to be stippled. It's going to be slightly different. It's going to be kind of a little bit, organic and stuff. And so making sure, I guess, you've got the right tools to be able to do that is important. Again, you've got an impressive array of brushes there on your belt that you've got. Is that a collection that you've built up over time? Yeah,
I only started off with the brushes that the college kind of gave to us, because we start off with this small kit that they give us, and that only had about like 20-ish brushes in it, 20, 25 maybe, and from that I just went out, find ones that I felt more comfortable with, and then built my brush set up from that.
How does it work with things like brushes? Is it one of those things where actually you do need to spend loads of money and generally the more expensive ones are better ones, or is it can you get some good bargain ones, or how does that work?
You definitely do not need expensive brushes, especially if you want to do special effects, because they will get ruined. It's always necessary. A lot of the brushes I have are just paint brushes, really cheap. I probably paid £1 for a set of like 20 of them. Wow. Really easy. It just applies it better in some sites, because sometimes the messier of the brush, it can give that nice effect.
That's really interesting. So if you had one piece of advice for someone that was interested in, maybe they're watching this video, maybe they've watched Glow Up, maybe they've just seen some films or performance and go, do you know what, I'd like to give that a go. I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. Do you have any advice for someone that might be in that situation but they don't quite know where to start?
Well, you will always need some sort of like degree or something if you want to get noticed. So going in and even doing apprenticeships or learning something would be amazing. But even if you just want to do this for fun online, it's just a thing of not giving up, because it's not always going to go right. Even if you're the most professional person in the world, you're never always going to get that amazing look every single time.
Yeah. Oh, I know that too well. Yeah. But no, that is a great point. Yeah, especially in those early days. Like you can't. I think that's something that we always try to put into our activities and things that we run at Mako. Is we try and make it. We call it a safe place to fail, where you can try something out, and if it doesn't work, then that's fine. But you've tried it out and you've done it, and you've done it. And I guess that's a really important thing with makeup as well. It's like, especially when you're first starting out, give it a go. I guess trying to have fun with it. Again, like you said, there's such an important message. Have fun with it, play around with it, get it. See if it works, but don't take it too personally if it doesn't, because there's people that have been doing it, mastering it for tens of years, to get to how good they are. That's an interesting question though. Do you have any kind of like heroes within makeup, people that you look at and go, wow, their stuff is amazing?
I used to really enjoy watching the really like beauty guru people, the ones that everyone loves, like James Charles and all that, when I used to do the more simple makeup. And then now it's really just anyone who is like really, there's obviously people that worked on Harry Potter, the very famous people. They are obviously going to be a big inspiration, because their skill and craft is absolutely amazing.
It'd be interesting to know. I'm a bit of a techie at heart as well, in terms of and seeing like thinking about, because obviously there's a lot of stuff that's CGI now and things like that. Is there anything that kind of ties makeup and CGI together, where they go, actually we're going to do half of this with a computer, but half of it with makeup and things like that and stuff like that within films? Or
Yeah, they definitely do that. A good like example of it is Vision from Marvel. When they do filming, he has like all of the dots on it to track it, but he still has like a red face with the gem on it and stuff, and he's still painted. And then they just track the extra details that maybe we couldn't get the right shine on, or is like 3D gold that could maybe be better in CGI.
Yeah.
That's the sort of stuff that we do like a 50-50, so it looks good on set, but it's also easier.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I'd imagine then with stuff like that, it's just still always continuing to develop, you know, to go, actually this makeup needs to be there this way, because when we look at the CGI, it either needs to match it or even potentially stand out so it can track it and things like that. It's just, it is really interesting how like technology is influencing makeup that's used and things like that. So Chris, I believe that you are nominated for award at the moment.
That's right. Well, thanks for bringing that up, Sean. Yes, Kate and I are off down to London pretty soon to go to the Music and Drama Education Awards. We're really looking forward to it, actually. Obviously, last year it was virtual, and we were fortunate enough to win last year in our category, which was amazing. But I think we're really looking forward, since we've been nominated again, to actually go down and enjoy it face to face. And it's actually the third year on the trot we've been nominated finalists. So we're proud of that.
That's brilliant. That's congratulations and fingers crossed. We'll,
It's going to do the bottom.
We've already got one in the cabinet. So if you don't win, at least you can celebrate that one that you've already got as well properly with the team. It is very important though. We always say here that, you know, getting out with the team and having those socials and things like that is really important, especially when you work so hard, you know, to celebrate the successes, you know, and things that you've got with it. Yeah. So congratulations.
You're right about that as well. Do you know? Because I think we're all quite self-deprecating, really. You know, we're not always great at blowing our own trumpet, and I think sometimes we're quite uncomfortable with sort of being in the spotlight. But it's important from time to time to just recognise how far you've come and kind of what's happened. And I know that a lot of the organisations, the cultural organisations in Halton, have been nominated for awards at the Liverpool City region sort of level and national level as well. And I think we need to celebrate that, because there's amazing things going on in Halton.
Yeah, definitely. So what's exciting for you at the moment, Chris? Is there any developments, anything coming through outside of a place for us that kind of have got your interest, or you've kind of been keeping an eye on going, do you know what, I think that there might be something exciting happening here?
I think outside of a place, well, it's kind of outside of a place for us, but also kind of involving us. There's amazing things happening in Halton creatively. There are some bids that are happening. There's a big development in the High Street that's coming on the next 2 to 3 years at the old Camden buildings there, which will develop a sort of digital and creative hub. And I think that links in really well to what you were talking about having that safe space where people can go to try things out. And there's going to be 5 or 6 cultural organisations all within that same sort of span of buildings. And I think that's an amazing thing for the people of Halton, you know, to be able to try all these different things in a safe space, and then go on and try different things and take it forward if it's what they like. And that is really exciting at the moment.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Yeah, it's a very exciting development, you know, that we hope to be part of as well. And you know, it's fantastic. Big shout out to community radio, BIP as well, and Hazelhurst, who are all involved in that project as well. So yeah, fingers crossed that all goes ahead, and it's a very exciting thing to come for the next few years to come. So Tia, you were mentioning before that you are, or at least you got started and been interested in your cosplay. Mm-hmm. Have you got a favourite character that you've made up before using your makeup?
I did a woodland fairy, and she had these big reindeer antlers, and she was like this pastel blue and a pink, and I would go out and take loads of like pictures up in the Heath Forest, and do like little shoots down there and stuff. And it's a lot of work and a lot of like getting used to uncomfortable shoes.
Yeah. Well, with cosplay as well, I mean, we were talking a little bit then about it kind of a place for us in theatre and all the kind of stuff that goes in the background with that, but cosplay in itself is, because makeup's only one part of it, isn't there? There's all the costumes that get done from it, also props and things like that get made. I know that there's a lot of people that use laser cutters and 3D printers and all sorts of stuff, to kind of really bring those characters to life and kind of and get into it. Do you ever work as kind of like as part of a team when you're doing cosplay, or is it something that you kind of take on and try and do all of it yourself?
Well, most of the time it's always either been I've bought and then styled everything in my kind of own way.
Sure.
But recently I've been wanting to like expand, so I have a family member who makes clothes, so she's been kind of teaching me that sort of craft. So
that's great. Yeah, the more skills you can get like that, the better. In terms of like, having a good base understanding of lots of different things can be so helpful when you're wanting to put things together. And we were only talking before about one of the things you really develop as an artist the more you go on is that ability to make sure that something happens. So even if somebody's late, somebody's ill, something like that happens, you've got that ability to kind of still make sure that you've got something presentable, something that you can put out and stuff like that. So building like that base on around as many skills as you can is really important, going forward. That is looking really gnarly now that I'm glad that make up that close up on it there. What are we doing in terms of adding at the moment? It looks a lot thicker what we're adding now.
Yeah, this is scab blood, or like scar blood, and it's very thick. It's I describe it as more of like a jam-esque texture, and that's sort of the like curdled blood, or like the old blood that's kind of sat in the wound for a while and it's starting to heal, but it also is like not at the sort of the same time.
I'm just looking at that black eye again now, and you can really see just underneath it that kind of like that. It's interesting seeing it how it develops, because it goes from that like just a bit of shading and things like that at first in Brussels, but then like just the detail of that like slight line underneath it where at the bottom of the eye ridge. And is this, when you're doing things like this, is it a case of there's a kind of blueprint to follow to kind of go, this is how to get the perfect black eye, or is it a little bit more like experiment and then kind of go, that looked a little bit good there, and I'm going to, next time I do it, I'm definitely going to include that?
It depends on where the injury is, because bruises depend on the impact, because it's darkest where it originally hits, and then it spreads from there, and it can also depend on the shape of the eye, that sort of stuff. So it's just looking at the eye, imagining where the impact would be, and then spreading it from there.
Where was the impact on Chris?
I decided to do it right in the centre, so it's kind of like, that's normally where you would, so if you hit someone, it would normally where it would normally end up, and that is also one of the easiest way to blend it without like taking too much of the eye, especially when sometimes when you use IPA on the eye, it can irritate the eye. So it's either better to do little as more, or just use a grease paint, which can be powdered later.
I think that's something that's really coming across in everything you're saying, is how important it is to make sure that the person that is having the makeup done to them is comfortable and feeling okay with it and things like that, and really like developing those skills to kind of be able to read the person, make sure that they're feeling comfortable and they're not getting irritated and things like that. Is that something that you have to kind of work on as well whenever you're doing makeup?
Definitely. It's just because a lot of the stuff can feel really sticky, uncomfortable. We're very close to the eyes and the nose and the mouth, and some of the stuff doesn't smell very good or isn't very texturally nice. So it's just making sure they're comfortable if they don't like it, or striking a conversation to make it less uncomfortable.
I've seen some of those full head masks where they've got like just straws stuck up their nose so they can breathe, and I'm just been like, that does not look fun at all. That looks very claustrophobic. Yeah, as you're doing it. I just thought then, I mean, you mentioned Harry Potter. I was watching something on Harry Potter the other day, and when they, it sounds off. I thought Voldemort was full makeup, but they should like a bit like you were saying before. I think when they shot it, he still just has his nose, like on there, and that's something that they CGI out later on. But they had the makeup on there as well. Like, so it is really interesting in that combination of film and things like that. Do you have a preference in terms of, do you prefer doing makeup for theatre or for film?
I prefer doing sort of the stuff for film. I like figuring out like the realism, where it should sit, where would it look the best, how could I do this to make it look like this accident actually did happen and it's not just like a fake one for like a little scene or something.
Yeah, fantastic. And what makeup were you actually, when you did Electric Dreams, what makeup were you doing in that one when you were working with A Place for Us?
I was doing a lot of the side characters, some of the more like smoked out bright colours. And since there was a lot of them, it was really easy to get the grips of the theatre makeup, but also keeping it in the 80s style without wasting too much time, because you obviously have to get all of these actors through in the right amount of time without.
How many was it there? It was a lot, wasn't it? I can't remember how many.
So there were 14 in the cast,
Yeah.
and there were 4 band members plus myself as musical director as well. So that was actually the first time in a long time I'd had makeup on, and we had the band all made up as well.
I heard you were the big diva as well that was like refusing to get out of the chair till it was absolutely perfect, making them do it again.
Do you know what? I was probably the one that went on the biggest transformation in terms of attitude towards kind of being made up. So the first one at the dress rehearsal, I was very kind of reluctant, and I just put a little bit on, just a little bit. Then by the time we did the last one, it was right, yeah, more sparkles, more stuff, more please, more. It was fantastic, and actually it's a really transformative experience to go through as well. Not being an actor, so not doing it very often. Suddenly when you get makeup put on you, it really kind of changes how you feel about yourself and what you're doing and how you're going to perform. It's genuinely, I think, a really kind of underrated kind of part of what happens. You know, since starting A Place for Us, I've been doing a lot more to do with the backstage stuff as well, so the technical side of things. And the more and more I look into that, I realise just the massive important job that they all do. And it's like we said, it's not always really obvious that it happens.
I remember I was once in a room where they'd got projectors and they put them on all 4 different walls, and it meant that you could project around the whole room, and you could have like it under the water and things like that. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is a fad, this is like a gimmicky, type of thing, and whatever. And I remember going in there the first time, and they changed it to suddenly being under the water, and just the surroundings changing around you, and you're kind of going, wow, your whole energy, your whole body kind of did react to it, and I'd imagine it's very similar with when you're looking at yourself with makeup on, but also with regards to the lights that are going on. If suddenly everything goes red, for example, I know it's a very cliche one, but the change of colours, the change of sound as well, high quality sound going on as well, can really like embed you in those locations and get you ready either as a performer to perform, or as an audience member to kind of to feel what they are doing. And I think you're right. I think it's when that's done really well. It's a difficult job sometimes, because when that's done really well, you almost don't want people to notice it, but want people to feel it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's the job of something like that it meshes, it melds, it enhances so much that it's almost indecipherable, really. It adds something that it's greater than the sum of the parts, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And it's something that we work on really hard, is trying to get as many people involved in as many aspects of it, so that they can see what it means. One of the things that we started doing, and it's a really small thing, but at the end of a film, we sit right until the end of the credits. Because if you look at the end of a film, there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people involved in making that thing happen. And there's just something nice about just spending 2 minutes at the end of a film just appreciating all of the work that's gone in from everybody else.
It is crazy when you see those names, because at the speed they're going up as well a lot of the times, you know, like to get through them all, it's incredible. And look at the job titles. It's something that I would definitely recommend for anyone that's interested in not just makeup, but in kind of film production in any way, looking at all the different job titles that there are in there and just trying to do potentially, if anything catches your eye, doing a little bit of research on them, because there are so many different job titles even within the same department, you know, that all have different, you know, and even down to non-artistic ones, you know, like films and theatre and everything take accountants, they take people in lots of roles that aren't necessarily seen as like creative, but without them, that doesn't happen, because without the finances, without the marketing, without everything else that goes into doing it, it's there are hundreds of people that are involved. I've got to stop now going on about this and find out what are we doing here, Tia? We're just flicking stuff at Chris because he's doing our editing. What are we doing?
So I've just applied the staples in, and what the how you apply them is just the wax is still, the wax never sets really, so you just stick them into the wax and it'll kind of look like it's holding it together. And then I've just took a cotton bud and applied the blood and just let it drip slightly and tap it out as it's going down, so it looks like it's kind of running down and out. And then this brush, it's kind of similar to like a toothbrush really. It's got those bristles, and all you do is you just hold it by the thumb and you just flick in that, so it just kind of gives that blood splat effect. And then you just dip and continue until it gives the little like spread of blood, since this is a wound on the head, so it will produce more blood than some other places because the head is way more sensitive. And
with them staples, are they actual staples?
Yeah.
Yeah. Superb. I was like, I didn't know if we'd have prop staples, but I guess the wax is thick enough for it to stick into and be flat. Fantastic. Is there any wounds that you think to yourself, do you know what, I'd like to have a go at? Are there any wounds that you've not done yet that you'd like to have a go at reproducing?
I've done small little projects where we've done protruding bones, where the bone sticks out. I'd definitely like to do like a bigger one on the leg, so it looks really like out and effective. So that would be like super dramatic.
And if you're doing something like a bone coming through, I'm assuming, what is it, like an actual kind of like bone you buy from somewhere else, or is it like, you know, a plastic one, or how do you kind of make that look?
It depends on like how big it is. Sometimes if you're doing it from far away and you want a good effect and it's on the hand, you can make it with some tissue and liquid latex, which is quite cheap, and you can buy quite a lot of it, and you just mix and like mold it. If it's like bigger, sometimes you can use like malleable plastic and stuff like that. It's just like where it is on the body and how effective you want it to look.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
Can I just say before, I mean, I haven't seen this yet, but I'm sure it looks amazing, but just the support that we get from Riverside College and from Cronton Sixth Form College as well to what we do is amazing. It gives, you know, the students there some real great, real life sort of opportunities to get stuck in and stuff. And I think Tia and Shannon have both done an amazing job today. They've just been incredible.
They absolutely have, yeah. If you're watching this and you've not checked out our video, we've got one out with Kate as well from A Place to Us. It's been made into a different character, so please make sure you go and check that out as well. See both of the amazing students from Riverside College getting involved. Are we kind of what are we doing now? Are we just kind of like doing finishing touches to kind of neat and tidy him up, make sure it's all even all over the place?
Yeah, I'm just taking any of the cream products that I've used, so the cream around the eyes, and just patting that down with some translucent powder to make sure that it stays and it doesn't move, because it's very malleable and mixes normally.
So I know you were saying before that that the wax doesn't sometimes last quite as long as other prosthetics and things like that. How long would Chris be able to act for now looking like this?
I'd say depending, it can be like at most maybe an hour. It depends on how much you sweat, because sometimes sweat can react with it and it does just fall off.
So you'd be good, and that's why possibly good for a theatre performance. Maybe get that theatre performance on, and then whereas it wouldn't be good for a full day of filming, for example, especially if you're under lights and things like that, or in a hot climate and things like that when you were doing it. Yeah. Perfect. Brilliant. You've done an absolutely amazing job there, Chris. Hopefully you can see yourself in the screen over there in a second. But yeah, you've done an absolutely amazing job. It looks absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for coming down, and Chris, thank you again for being our model and also telling us a little bit more about A Place for Us in your own journey into the creative industries. For everyone watching at home, I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. It's really, really great. We have our MakeFest event coming up on Saturday, 26th of March. Tickets are completely free of charge for you and the family. It's a fantastic place to come and meet other creative people in Halton and have some fun. To get tickets, all you need to do is go to our website, www.haltonmakefest.co.uk, and you can get them from our Eventbrite. Fantastic. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and yeah, we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.